Big episode for you guys right now. Major update. So, is it true that a hotel staffer walked in while Ashlee was still alive, kicking, and then left? Is this true? We're going to get into that. Not only that, I found a lot of information that might suggest that Joe and Ashlee were targeted by other people. All right. It could be. We're going to dig deep dive into Joe's background, and we're going to show you, or I'm going to show you exactly why he could have been targeted. What happened with his business that a lot of people have not found or don't know about, that I found with all the losses, and the government of Zanzibar. The government of Zanzibar, are they involved with crypto because Joe was involved with crypto? And there's an investor who could have a relation to the medical field and Zanzibar. This is Fugitive TV. Stay tuned for these updates. Welcome to Fugitive TV, and I am your host, Ray Marcel. And what we do is we take a look at cases of either missing individuals, crimes, unsolved crimes, and here we take a deeper dive than a lot of other people do, and we give it a different perspective because, see, I was once a fugitive on the run from the law myself. After I committed some white-collar crime, I ran and was a fugitive for 15 years. I lived in different countries under different names, turned myself in. I have this YouTube channel. I have multiple companies. I also am a motivational speaker, and I help family members locate people that need to be brought to justice or locate missing individuals. Well, right now, we're going to take a look at the Ashlee Janae case. Real name, I believe it was Ashlee Robinson. Now, I did one video on this before, and I dove into their backgrounds, and at that time, I didn't know a lot about Ashlee's background. It was kind of kept private. You couldn't go into her background too much, but you could on Joe's. Well, this video, you guys, I got a lot of information. There's an interview that came out with a woman from Africa who I guess lives out that way that gave us a lot of details. Not only that, Joe Budden, the famous podcaster, came out and shared some light on Ashlee and who she was. Then from there, see, I live here in Florida. I went and found out exactly Ashlee's background, which wasn't hard to do since I already live here. Not only that, you guys, Joe, the fiance, I also found out what he possibly could have been doing there in the first place. See, he was a regular visitor there. He's been there a lot, and it happens to do with crypto and business. So I'm going to give you guys that information too. And I talked with somebody, believe it or not, out there in Zanzibar. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to pay people off. It is very easy, which I am not shocked by that because, hey, when I lived in different countries under different names, sometimes you had to pay people off. So I'm not shocked by this. Well, first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the timeline of Ashlee Janae, kind of the story, just a real recap of the story, just in case you guys don't know. So let me read an article from TMZ that kind of gives you a real recap, okay? All right, so Ashlee Janae was a social media influencer. She had, at the time of her death, it was around 85,000 followers on Instagram. Now it's probably a whole lot more. Like when I checked, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday when I did the first video, it went up to almost 130,000. So this is who she is, all right? But we're going to dig down and tell you how they met and everything, all right? So this is just a quick recap. A look inside her final days before mysterious death. Influencer Ashlee Janae died during a trip to Tanzania with her fiance, Joe McCann, earlier this month, and police are actively investigating. According to a local outlet, police initially believed the social media star's death was that she did it herself, okay? After she was found unconscious in her villa at Zuri, Zanzibar, but her family still has questions regarding the suspicious circumstances of her passing. Here's a timeline of her last days. April 3rd. And this is them at a zoo and Tanzania. Okay, so that's them at a zoo in Tanzania. Joe proposed to Ashlee during their trip, and she took to Instagram to post a video of the moment he popped the question. Cameras captured him getting down on one knee at a luxury safari servo wildlife while a lion walked in front of them. Okay, so April 4th, as you see, they're still here. The following day, Ashlee shared more snaps from Servo where she was posing among the animals, both solo and with Joe. She posted pictures of herself and her fiance feeding zebra, standing near a giraffe, and even reshared the shot of him proposing. And that's her right there in front of a lion. Very beautiful. She was very, very pretty. And then April 5th, right here, you see, she's feeding the giraffe. The next day, Ashlee celebrated her birthday. Okay. And it was on social media with a series of snaps. So she was there for her birthday too, as well as him proposing. You can see a bed of rose petals at her feet that spell out HBD Ashlee as she poses while feeding a giraffe. Okay, and that's this right here, HBD Ashlee, happy birthday Ashlee. So then April 8th, things took a turn. A few days after that, Ashlee's mom Yolanda told Philadelphia's WPVI TV her daughter called to say she and Joe got into an argument and moved to separate rooms. So she called her mom, said they got into an argument and moved to separate rooms. Now, the report is that she stayed in the original room and they moved Joe to a new room that's pretty much across the resort in Zanzibar. Now, I showed you guys the actual resort. I believe it was called Zuri Resort. I can't remember the full name, but I showed you guys the resort. I even showed you the rooms in my prior video. So if you want to see what the resort looks like, you can go to my prior video and look at that. They have been staying, here it is. They have been staying at the luxury resort Zuri Zanzibar at the time. So yes, it's Zuri. April 9th. The next day, Ashlee was found unconscious in her villa and rushed to the hospital, according to a local news outlet. The family tells TMZ Joe waited 11 hours to call them and tell them what happened, which they find very odd. They also said Joe told them Ashlee was okay and stable, even telling them not to worry about it. WPVI reportedly obtained the hospital's medical record for the incident, which notes an unidentified mark around her neck, says and says, according to the husband, as he found, she did this to herself, okay, on the door. Now here in YouTube world, we have to be careful with certain words we say, so that's why certain things I have to dance around or they can flag your channel, okay? I know this by experience of another thing I did where they said the person did it to themselves. April 10th, according to Tanzania outlet, Ashlee died at the hospital on April 10th, and WPVI obtained a report from a second hospital she was allegedly taken to. This doc lists her immediate cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation or suffocation. The family tells us they haven't heard from Joe since he called to say Ashlee was in the hospital. All right, so now that I read that to you guys, okay, you guys got the quick recap, or if you don't know what's going on now, you see what's going on. He took her out to Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an island located in East Africa. It's located right on the side of Tanzania, all right? And come to find out, I've never been there, but come to find out, Zanzibar is a popular tourist destination, especially for people with money, which we're going to get into that later and why this could play a role. I actually spoke with a person who visited Zanzibar, okay? So, and I'm going to read to you what they told me. Now, like I said, they got into an argument. They had to be separated. He went to a separate room. She stayed in the original room. She called her mom. Later on, they found her unconscious, pretty much hanging from a piece of clothing is what they're saying, and took her to the hospital. She was still alive. Then they transferred her to a second hospital where she allegedly passed away. Or I shouldn't say allegedly. I guess she did pass away, right? Where she passed away. Joe has not contacted the family or nothing like that. Well, I'm going to tell you one of the reasons that could be why. Joe is still in custody, okay? He's still in custody. I spoke with somebody in Zanzibar, and we're going to get a little more information from this person I spoke to. So, Tanzania, their rules are different than here in the States, okay? So, you know, here in the States, they could take you in for questioning, but they only have a certain amount of time they can hold you, then they can let you go, or then they have to let you go. Not the case there. So when it comes to these, because Tanzania is pretty much almost considered a third world country, okay? It's not like where we live here. Zanzibar, a lot of the island is still considered a third world country, all right? Meaning they don't have the same rules we have, all right? So they put you in jail, you're just sitting there. So they took his passport seized. He's also sitting in jail. Now, in here in America, when you go to jail, if the cops start asking you questions, you can say, I want to speak to my lawyer. I'm not answering no questions. I want to speak to my lawyer. After you say that, technically the police are supposed to not talk to you anymore until your lawyer comes. All right. That's how it's supposed to work here. And I'm not saying it always works like that here, but that's how it's supposed to work here. In Africa, Tanzania, oh no, all that gets thrown out the window. So you can call for your lawyer all you want to, but that doesn't mean they don't have to hold you. That doesn't mean they're not in there holding, asking you questions. So till this day, Joe is actually being held and most likely being questioned or whatever they're doing to him, but he's still there to this day. So we don't know how often he gets to use the phone, if he even gets to use the phone at all. So it's a whole different story of being in a jail in Tanzania. Now, if you happen to be in a jail in Tanzania, I would be shocked if one of you guys can tell me below you were in a jail in Tanzania. So it's a whole different place. And I'm pretty sure jail in Tanzania is not the same as jail here. Jail here might be like, a resort compared to jail in a third world country. I don't even want to see it there. So this could be the reason why nobody really, think about it, nobody's heard from Joe. Now, if you go on his the Twitter account, right, people were saying, people at first were speculating that he came back because his Twitter account is still posting. Well, these multimillionaires, a lot of times, they're not the only ones on their Twitter account. They have an assistant and things like that are posting to keep things active, especially if it involves business, okay? So he probably has that going on. That's why his Twitter account or X account is still making posts. So I listened to the Joe Budden podcast, okay? Joe Budden, if you don't know, he's one of the most famous podcasters in the world, all right? He was a famous rapper back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He had a hit song called Pump It Up that was in a lot of dance movies. Then he ended up moving into podcasting into that range. He's one of the first rappers to do that, actually, and succeed and make millions of dollars at what he's doing. Well, during the Joe Budden podcast the other day, he started talking about Ashlee Janae. Come to find out, Joe Budden knows Ashlee Janae. And not only that, he also knows Joe McCann, okay? So he started talking about Ashlee and about how she would, be in Jersey with Joe Budden, because Joe Budden's podcast, Joe Budden is from New Jersey. And he would say how Ashlee would be in Jersey, hanging out, chilling, and then take a flight to Miami, go to a club, be a bottle girl, make that money, and then go back to Jersey. So he was talking about that and about how her and Joe McCann, the fiance or boyfriend, would pretty much party with Joe, birthday parties, things like that. So when I heard that, I was like, wait. She used to go to Miami and party. Well, I don't know if you guys know this from my other videos, but one of my businesses is a DJ business. I'm here in Florida. I'm in Miami all the time. I'm in the nightclub scene all the time because of my DJ business. Now, so I go out there, so I talk to some people, come to find out Ashlee was a bottle girl in some of these clubs. Now, I spoke with a person who worked with her, actually. I'm not going to name the club, but in some of the high-end Miami clubs, all right, some of these clubs were gentlemen's clubs, all right, high-end Miami gentlemen's clubs. She would be a bottle girl, server, things of that nature. Now, I don't know if she did anything else, but this is what the person I spoke to told me. Now, apparently working at the club she was at, okay, because in Miami, if you guys don't know or never been to a Miami high-end gentleman's club, you're liable to run into anybody in these establishments, okay, especially in a gentleman's club. Friday, Saturday night, after a concert, whatever it is, a lot of high-end people were being there, from rappers to business executives. All kind of people will be in these clubs. As long as they have money, they're in there to spend it. And we're not talking about little money. We're talking about where there's buying table sections for $5,000 to $10,000, okay? Just to get the table. Nothing, just to get the table is what we're talking about, all right? So They would buy these tables, and of course, this is where a lot of these girls would meet these guys at. So what I was told was that Joe McCann, or McCann, whatever you want to call him, Joe McCann, her fiance, was a regular at one of these clubs. He would go to the club, spend money, and of course, who would he spend the money on? Ashlee Janae, and that was originally how they came across each other. Joe Budden even said during the podcast, now Joe Budden didn't say this is how they met. I found this out after I listened to the Joe Budden podcast, because then that made me wait, hold on, let me reach out to some people. Joe Budden even said during this podcast that you never knew who she would be with. One day she might be with some Chicago people who were like out in the street hanging. One day she might be with some nerds. One day she might be with some tech guys. It makes sense because I just told you all these different type of people come to the club. Anybody from your street dealers to your tech executives to entrepreneurs, as long as they have the money and they look the part, they're in the club spending it. Now, this was not the only club she was at. She would bounce around from different high-end clubs. A lot of the girls do. They would bounce around from one club to other club to this club. So this explains how she's probably connected to a lot of these people in the industry. This explains why Joe Budden, who frequently visits clubs in Miami because it goes to Miami a lot, possibly met Janae. This might explain why the rapper Cardi B talked about Ashlee Janae too, because Cardi B, before she was a rapper, we all know, came from the club scene. So this could explain these connections with that. So now that we got the background of how they met, all right, let's go into some of the details of why Joe could have been there in the first place. All right, so Joe McCann, in case you don't know, he has a lot of money from the crypto world. He has a company called Asymmetric Financial, okay? And we're going to get into the financials of the company. Now, I got in my last video, I got into the financials, like reports and stuff like that, but I didn't really, I didn't have enough time to do a deep dive into the company because it takes time. So for the last 2 days, this is what I've been doing, you guys, is digging deep into his company and what they could be a part of and the reason why he could be in Zanzibar in the first place. Now, all this information might not relate to the death of Ashlee, but this can relate to why he was even going there to begin with, okay? Because in order to solve a case, sometimes you got to figure out the whole background. You got to put it all together so you can figure out the story, all right? So he, like I told you, he had a company called, he had a financial company dealing with crypto trading. Basically, if you had a bunch of money sitting around, you didn't know what to do with it. He was almost like a financial advisor. He would come to you and go, hey, how much money you got sitting around? You would say something like, oh, I got 100K in my bank account just sitting there. And he would say, hey, I can take that 100K and I can invest it over here into this crypto company and you can watch your money grow and we can win together. And you would say, sure. And you would hand him this 100K. And it will become a liquid fund, okay? I run a couple companies, so I'm familiar with how this works, all right? So he's got a bank account with all these liquid funds in it, which is cash. And this money pretty much is not his money, but it's money from other investors going into his business bank account, which equals cash flow. So when you have this liquid fund, then you can go out and get more funding because now you can prove, hey, if you give me your $100,000, hey, you'll get the money back because look at my bank account here. I got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions upon dollars. So you don't have to worry about losing your money. I can easily pay you back. Okay, so just to give you a simple breakdown real quick of that's how it works. And I'm not saying that some people think it's a scam, things like that. It's not always a scam. To me, a scam is something you sign up for, but they don't tell you, hey, what can go wrong? That's a scam. When you sign up for something and you know it can go wrong, that's not a scam. You knowing what you're signing up for. It's like committing a crime. That's not a scam. You committed the crime. You know what you did. So now you can go to jail and face this amount of time over it. Same exact thing, right? So right here in Zanzibar, there is a place that was going to be called the Nia Cyber City. Okay, the Nia Cyber City is a 71 acre or 71 hectare 1 billion network state, special economic zone on Zanzibar's Fumba, I can't even say the word, Peninsula, designed for digital nomads, crypto, innovation, and tech businesses. Let me repeat some of that and let me clear that up for you. The Nia Cyber City is a $1 billion network state, special economic zone on Zanzibar's Fumba Peninsula, designed for digital nomads, crypto innovation, and tech businesses. Okay, so there are plans to build, all right, this $1 billion network out in Zanzibar. And the whole focus is going to be on crypto giants, tech giants. They're trying to make it almost like the Simi Valley of California. If you don't know the Simi Valley of California, if you go to California, there's a place called Simi Valley. Simi Valley is known for tech businesses like Google. I think Apple even has a headquarters there. And not only do they have these headquarters, people actually live there. They have residents there. Google has homes and stuff like that you can live at, Apple, all that. The same thing with Tesla in Texas. Tesla in Texas, when they moved their operations from California, they moved to Texas. They're doing the exact same thing, building up homes that the workers and tech geniuses can actually live at. So they're pretty much right there working. It's pretty much almost like a camp. If you want to call it that, it could be like a camp, okay? But this is what they are doing. Now, it says right here, joint venture between the Zanzibar government, okay? Zanzibar government, people, and Our World, led by former Apple marketing director Florian Fournier. All right, Florian Fournier. Now, remember, the Zanzibar government is involved in this. Focus on blockchain technology, okay? Automatic digital governance. So blockchain technology is something that Joe was dealing with. This is what his company was all about. Target audience, digital nomads, blockchain developers, global investors looking for tax efficient tech forward environments. This is what Joe was about, you guys. His whole company was based on this. Benefits, no wealth tax, no capital gains tax, tax incentives for foreign businesses. Listen, guys, this right here, this last part that I read to you, no tax wealth, no capital gains tax, and tax incentives for foreign businesses. This is something the wealthy strive to want to have. And I can't blame them. If I was wealthy, I probably want the same thing too, especially no capital gains tax. Okay? No capital gains tax. This is just an example. If you don't even know what that is, this is just an example. Okay? Just an example. Let's say you want to sell, all right? You want to sell a high-end something, high-end painting, car, whatever it is. This is an example. Let's say you sell that car or that high-end painting. Let's say you sell it for $1 million. Let's just say, oh, you got to sell this for $1 million. Government comes in and goes, oh, you sold your car or you sold your painting or you sold your $1 million shoes, whatever it is. You got to pay us some money. You got to pay us this money. We want 33% of what you sold. So instead of $1 million, okay, you only get 700,000 or a little under 700,000 because you got to pay 33% capital gains tax, people. So that's just an example, just to break it down, just to give you an idea of like how that kind of works. Okay, now that's not completely how it works, but that's just a breakdown. If I wanted to give it to you like a 10-year-old or something like that. All right. So this means a lot to people with money because they don't want to pay that. All right. So watch this. We're going somewhere. Physical layout. Development includes sustainable next generation housing, smart office, and data centers, okay? The project aims to replicate the success of hubs like Singapore for East Africa, focusing on blockchain infrastructure and stablecoin adoption. The project is designed as a physical sandbox, allowing residents to manage daily life finance through integrated blockchain systems. Okay. Now, I know that was probably a lot to consume. Okay. That's why I was trying to break that down for you as best that I can. All right. So, in other words, Zanzibar is developing a place for these tech and crypto giants to pretty much live at. All right. Live there. You don't have to pay tax. You can run your businesses. And in return, they're putting all this money into Zanzibar and to the Zanzibar government. Now, remember, I told you the Zanzibar government, or not government, but a lot of parts of Zanzibar and Tanzania is a third world country, meaning a lot of people are broke there. A lot of people are poor. And I'm going to read to you what some people told me about Zanzibar that actually have been there, so you can get an idea of how broke and how poor these people are. All right. And then it's going to lead into some other things. So I hope you follow along. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Okay. We saw Ashlee. And we saw, kind of where they met, where they came from. I just read to you about Zanzibar and what their plans was, with the government. All right. And they're saying they're covering things up. So that's what they're saying, right? So let me show you something about Joe, where his empire took a crumble last year. And I'm not talking about little, I'm talking about heavily crumble. All right. Now, like I'm saying, I don't know if this plays a part, but this could be a piece to the puzzle. Follow me. So this is from weeks.com. Okay. This is a website pretty much based on crypto and things like that. Now, I actually dabble a little bit in crypto. I dabble in stocks, business things, so I'm familiar with these articles. So when it comes to what Joe does, this is why I can explain it really easy, because I'm very familiar with it already. All right. So I'm going to read to you this article. It says, in the narrative of the crypto industry, asymmetric returns. Now, his company is Asymmetric Financial, but it says asymmetric returns is almost a default belief, using limited downside to exchange for potential upside. Joe McCann attempted to turn this logic into a business. His brainchild, Asymmetric, simultaneously bet on primary investment and secondary trading, rapidly scaling up in the 2024 market recovery window. Assets doubled, trades worked, personal branding and fund performance reinforced each other. Everything seemed to prove the validity of this model. Now, I know that might be a little hard to consume, but I kind of broke it down to you what he does. So what he was doing, like, once again, he was taking your money and say, hey, you sign up for this, I'll invest your money, and in return, this is what we can get. And he would show you the big upside of it, right? To show you the upside. Look, this is how much money I've funded so far. I funded this much money. Now, I don't know if I was going to get into the funds of this one, but at one point, the liquid funding, pretty much cash in the account, was up to $400 million, people. That's almost $500 million this guy was handling. $400 million. Of course, this man is in a gentleman's club, a single guy making it rain, throwing money everywhere. So it makes sense. Now, but the other side of cycle quickly emerged as the market turned cold. Liquidity tightened, high validity assets and narrative-driven strategies began to falter. By 2025, the fund experienced a significant down. The internal turmoil, strategy reversals, and loss of investor confidence, one after another. Okay, so in 2025, which we're going to get into that, in July 2025, a bunch of things happened to him. All right. The asymmetric nature began to reveal. It's another layer of meaning. While returns were amplified, risk was also deferred and magnified. And just as all this had not been fully resolved, sudden event in Tanzania completely interrupted his narrative, that belonging to the market. McCain's fiance, influencer Ashlee Robinson, suddenly passed away. So now it's talking about, everything that happened there, right? Now let's go down. Now that's him. If you don't know, that is him. Okay. Joe McCann entered the crypto trading field and seemed to have succeeded in just 2 years. In 2022, the fund he founded, Asymmetric, raised funds from institutions such as Mark Anderson, and Circle. Mark Anderson has a lot of money, people. A lot of money. He funds a lot of businesses. And the crypto market boom accompanying Donald Trump's return to the White House, the value of his fund almost doubled. Now, when Donald Trump went back to the White House, when he got reelected, if you had stock or you had crypto, it all just went kabam. It all just doubled. Some of it even tripled, depending on what you have. So when Donald Trump went back into office, it just all shot up. All right. So that's what that's saying right now. However, the situation soon spiraled out of control. By July 2025, Asymmetric's liquidity fund had suffered significant losses, prompting Joe to steer investors towards a new project that ultimately failed to meet expectations. Okay. Reports emerged that Joe's fiance and influencer Ashlee Robinson passed away, and it starts talking about that as well. Now, in 2018, Joe was previously married to another woman. He was married to I believe her name is Shay, or pronounce it Shay, or Shay Jackson. Now, she worked in marketing and was 10 years his junior, which is she was actually 10 years younger than him too. Okay. Now, Joe is 45. So that would make her 35 right now. So at this time, she was 10 years younger than him. All right. The couple eventually parted ways. And then founders who had received investments from the Asymmetric Venture Fund disclosed to Fortune is a magazine, all right, Fortune, that some of Joe's shares have been transferred to Jackson, all right? Jackson has not responded to requests or comments. So at one point, we don't know if this is a settlement. I told you in my other video about the ex-wife. I just didn't bring her name up at the time. Shay Jackson, she lives in a multi-million-dollar house on the West Coast. She's doing good for herself. She works in marketing for $1 billion company. She is doing great. Now, we don't know if he had to transfer the shares due to a divorce, or he transferred the shares trying to hide something. You know, we don't know. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to fast forward down here, where some things take a turn for Joe. All right. So in several interviews, Joe boasted about his staggering returns on a short-lived meme coin called Boink. Now, a meme coin is a crypto coin, and what it is, pretty much anybody and their mama can invent a crypto coin. Okay. You can go right now and invent a crypto coin. All right. Anybody can do it. All right. And then you just have to figure out how to put it on the blockchain. The blockchain is a place where you trade, buy, and sell crypto coins. OK, a meme coin at first was taken as a joke. Like somebody, let's say, for example, you took a picture of your dog, or your dog's name is Lucy, and you're like, I'm going to make a coin called Lucy and have a picture of your dog on it for the mascot. That could be considered a meme coin. Some meme coins people put on as jokes, they end up making people money and I'm just blowing up. So in several interviews, Joe boasted about a staggering return on a short-lived meme coin called Boink. He also boosted his cultural influence through a relationship with rapper Iggy Azalea. So Iggy Azalea was a rapper who was signed to T.I. at one point. She had multiple hits. She also had a coin by herself. Now, I don't know if this coin is still going, but she also has a brand. I believe the brand is called Mother. It was a Mother coin. I don't remember. Mother or Mama. I can't remember exactly. But the rapper Iggy Azalea hyped up the failed crypto project of the artist. Okay, so it says it failed. Additionally, he briefly released a series of asymmetric themed merchandise and accompanied it with a well-produced, costly promotional video. For a period of time, all this translated into a significant returns. Wait till you hear this return, you guys. Wait till you hear this return. According to a source familiar with the company's finances who spoke to Fortune in 2024, Asymmetric's liquid investment portfolio grew from around 195 million to 395 million. Like I said, pretty much $400 million, almost $500 million is what this man was able to pretty much get in investments. However, this performance still lagged behind And it says BTC, Bitcoin's whopping 121% surge that year, okay? Because Bitcoin went up 121% that year. It went up a lot. Despite impressive gains on paper, things were not smooth with Asymmetric. Insiders say that the founding member and core trader, okay, Chris Cesare, chose to resign even as the company's performance surged in 2024. Cesare did not comment on this. So Chris Cesare, I believe I'm pronouncing his last name right, apparently founded this with Joe. So at the point of their peak, $400 million, why did he choose to resign? Why did he pick? Why? Why did he step away? We don't know that yet. We don't. As of 2025 rolled in and performance started to falter, all right, Joe returned to a new wave of crypto enthusiasm, digital asset treasury companies, a model pioneered by Michael Saylor, whose company MicroStrategy is a prominent example. In a July investor letter, Joe announced that due to changing market dynamics, Asymmetric would abandon its active trading strategy and channel remaining resources into building a Solana asset reserve. So basically what he did was at that time, he said, hey, I'm going to change paths. We're not going to do this anymore. We're pretty much going to start doing this. So did a full 360. Now, how it says building a Solana asset reserve, the easiest way I can tell you guys what this is, you have cryptocurrencies, right? But each cryptocurrency can be under a different umbrella is the best way that I can make it describe. So you might have this umbrella, have these different cryptos. You have this umbrella, different crypto coins, and this umbrella, you know, with their different crypto coins, this is their base, and it could be like a Solana based crypto coin if you get where I'm going. So it says remaining resources into a building Solana asset reserve. So he was trying to put his remaining funds pretty much into this umbrella based crypto, okay? The company was originally planning to hold an investor briefing on July 22nd, but on the same day, a disgruntled limited partner disclosed on X that the fund had lost nearly 80% year to date. Shortly thereafter, this Solana strategy was swiftly halted. A former investor told Fortune that during the liquidity fund wind down process, their final redemption amount was even lower than the initial principal investment. Okay. So I know that was a mouthful and I know that was a handful. Okay. The company raised up to $400 million, but then pretty much a whistleblower went on X and told people, hey, the money you're seeing, it took an 80% loss. It's not there no more. Pretty much he's blowing smoke up you guys. He was supposed to lead a new company, okay? A company, I believe it was a $1.5 billion company he was supposed to lead that was under that umbrella of crypto. But last year in July to August, they halted that, stopped it. To this day, there's no reports, or I can't find any report on why they stopped it. So this person on X came out and said, hey, they lost 80% of money. Did they really lose 80% of the money? Was he telling the truth? And this is why Joe McCann ended up not being the leader of this $1.5 billion project that was going on. Now you take that, and then you go to Zanzibar and you have what I told you about the whole city that's being built for crypto. And not only that, all these investors are going there. And that part of the people who are involved is the Zanzibar government. All right. So the Zanzibar government's involved with it. So you have all this mixed with Zanzibar. Is this why Joe was going to Zanzibar? Because he went, this wasn't his first time. I've heard he went multiple times. He was going all the time to Zanzibar. So is this why? Now, let's get into some of these details of the night they got into the argument and how they found her and how she possibly they could have saved her life if this is legit.
he's known. He's a frequent, like, visitor. They know him. That changes the story. It's not like somebody who just went there for the first time. And then he also chose a place where the police can be bribed.
All right, so we're caught up on kind of the history of everything of Joe and Ashlee, how they met, what's going on with Joe, where Ashlee came from. So we know all this, all right? Fast forward to today. They're in Zanzibar, right? They get into an argument. Now, my reports state, even with the person I talked to in the Miami club, people, the person I talked to in Miami club says that she saw them even argue in the club a few times. So I told you about this in my last video. I said, just because people put pictures on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, and everything's all, look at me, I'm happy, I'm living the best life, doesn't always mean you're living the best life. So do not take all these social media posts, take some of them as a grain of salt, all right? Because not everybody's telling the truth. Now, I'm not saying they were in this heated arguments and they didn't get along. I'm not saying that. But from what I see and what I hear, there was already turmoil going on, which, I mean, if she's working in these clubs, these nightclubs, he's supposedly this tech giant. He probably doesn't want her doing certain things, or probably wants to keep her from doing things, which, hey, you can probably understand that. And then at the same time, she wants to live her life, and she doesn't want handcuffs on herself. So you can understand that too. So it's probably where they were butting heads a lot. And not only that, from two different places of the world, all kind of things, right? These two. But she told me that they were even be in the club sometimes arguing. They would have to go outside, all kind of things. Now, I don't know if this is true. This is allegedly what she told to me, which makes sense because the night they got into the argument, in my last video, I said, what were they arguing about? I said, what were they arguing about that was so bad that if she did do it herself, she had to go in there and do it herself, that it was so bad that if he did it, he had to go in there and do it. Or if he paid some off, what had to be the argument over, okay? Come to find out, that wasn't the first time they were arguing. They allegedly were arguing almost every night. The person who lived in the unit next to him was hearing them argue. They argued so much that the person in the unit had to call the hotel security. Like, hey, these people are arguing all the time. They're bothering me. Security got involved. And that's when security got involved and they separated them, okay? The initial reports was like it got so bad that they had to separate them, which it did get bad. So we were thinking when we first heard this, right? Oh, fists might have been thrown, threats. No, what happened was they were arguing so much that they had to separate them because they were messing up their business with other clients that were on the property. So then they separated them. Now, this is when she called her mom and said they got into a fight, were separated. Now, remember, allegedly, she's still in the same unit. Last time she was seen was with a hotel worker. Hotel worker saw her. She asked to borrow the hotel's workers, I guess, to charge her phone. So I don't know if it's the whole cord, the base in the cord, that part I don't know. So the hotel worker gave her, the base or cord, whatever, which one, or both together to charge her phone. Now, apparently she told this hotel worker, come back in 15 minutes. All right. Some people are wondering why, she told him to come back in 15 minutes. Maybe because, I need to charge my phone. You can come back 15 minutes to get the cord. So that's probably what I can think of, right? So apparently this worker went back. When the worker went back, opened the door. When they opened the door, they heard a thump or whatever. And apparently they saw her, hanging from something. Now, whatever it was from is still unclear. We looked at the resort. The only thing I can see that could have been being hung from, now there are rafters. I showed you there's rafters and beams. I can see that being a possibility. Not only that, the bed too. There's bed frames, things like that. But we still really don't know an official truth of what she was hanging from. So apparently when he walked in, or when a hotel person walked in, she was there kicking. Okay, like still alive, kicking. Hotel person apparently ran out. Now, I don't know if this is true, but apparently ran out, guys, ran out. Here's the part that's sad. If this is the real truth of what happened, they didn't go back into the room for an hour later. Hour later, went back into the room. Either she got down or they got her down. Then that's when they took her to the hospital. Apparently she had an extra mark on her neck is what they're saying. They're not saying what it's from. They're not saying it's from somebody's fingers, or they're not saying a lot. Took her to the hospital. She's still alive. Took her to the second hospital, and that's where she passed away. Joe ended up calling her family 11 hours later. Hasn't heard from Joe since. So if this is true, that the person walked in and she was there alive with body movement, kicking, she could have been saved. Why didn't they save her if this is the case? All right. We're going to get into a possibility of why from the person that I spoke to, okay, in Zanzibar. Now, in order to get to let you know exactly what they were telling me, I got to show you this real quick. I have to show you this. All right, so I need to show you guys the money and what it's worth over there in Tanzania, okay? So their dollar's called the Tanzanian. And if you were to give somebody $500 in American money, that would equal over $1 million in Tanzanian. $1 million, okay? If you were to give somebody, let's say, $1,000 in American money, that would equal 25 million Tanzanian dollars. You guys get where I'm going? You get where I'm going? Do you see the dollar difference from us to them? You see the dollar difference? I had to show you this real quick. Now, the person I spoke to in Zanzibar, okay? It's amazing how much the US dollar goes. And I'm not shocked by this because when I went to Mexico and I was out there and I was in that underworld, you had some US currency on you, you can get with everything. Not only that, Mexico cops will pull you over on purpose. If they saw you driving with a California plate, sometimes they'll pull you over on purpose and claim you went through a red light and there'll be no red light back there and you pay them $20, $50 and they let you go. Okay. I have plenty of stories of us paying people off just to get off our back down in Mexico. And some of them would be law or government official, whatever it is. Okay. But so I understand when this person in Zanzibar told me how things work. Okay. Money is what rules. Money is what rules everything. Now, see, Zanzibar brings in about 35% of the money in that whole island just through tourism. 35% of the money going to the Zanzibar island is just from tourism. Okay. It's like the Orlando of East Africa. This is why those crypto people want to build there, because there's money that could be made there. When you understand this, then you could probably understand why Joe was there so much. There's money that could be made there. He's trying to help. He's trying to get investors to give him money. Okay. So I'm pretty sure he already knew about these plans in Zanzibar. Pretty sure he knew. So he's trying to get his feet wet already over there. It just makes sense. I mean, hey, I would do it. I would do it too. It just makes total sense. I see this coming. Let me get over here so I get my feet wet. All these investors are going to be over here. I need investors to run my business. If I don't have investors, I have no business. So it just makes sense. Let me get my name known. Let me meet the officials and everything over here. Now, in Zanzibar, what the person told me is that rich people, when they come to Zanzibar, are treated like kings. Some people even treat them like God. Okay, because a lot of these people have never spoken or seen anybody that's rich. And even, to us, we'd be like, okay, he's got, even if somebody has $1 million in their account, okay, he's good. But to them, He's a king. He is a god. So a lot of these people will do whatever the rich person says because of that. And because I showed you the dollar amount, they can easily be paid to almost do anything. What the guy told me, he said, if you pay the right dollar amount, somebody here would take out their own mom. And that's what the guy told me. They would take out their own mom if you paid the right dollar amount. All right. Now, I'm not saying Joe paid anybody off, but what I'm saying, it is possible. It's possible because it's a third world country. Now, I'm going to read to you what somebody said about Zanzibar. Just came back from a trip from Zanzibar. We combined it with the safari in Tanzania, which is what they did. All right. Which seems to be a very popular destination. So we decided to spend a few days on the island as well. We stayed in Kingomani and visited Matawi, Stone Town, and Nukuwi. Before going, I read my comments saying that Zanzibar, or before going, they read comments saying that Zanzibar was a scam and things like that because they were warned beforehand. I now understand why people were telling me this is a scam. So this is what I have to tell you while I was there. To me, Zanzibar feels like a budget exotic destination for unethical Western tourists who want something tropical but don't want to pay for places like Seychelles or Mauritius or Mauritius. Then it says on Instagram, it looks like paradise, turquoise water, white sand, smiling locals, and luxury resorts. Think about it. This is what we saw on Ashlee's Instagram, right? This is what she posted. Everything looked like paradise. The reality on the ground is very different. Now, they said once you step outside the resort, this is what you get. To me, Zanzibar, to the level of poverty on the island is shocking. You see people partying inside luxury resorts while just one street away, children are clearly maltreated, lack access to basic necessities. This contrast is never shown online. But once you're there, it's impossible to ignore and very uncomfortable to witness. Some people justify this by saying that tourism helps the local economy. Wow, that may be partially true. What I mostly saw was foreigners getting rich while locals are paid pennies. Foreigners go there to invest, open up businesses, and as long as they bring money, the government will let them invest. The government will let them open businesses. The person in Zanzibar even told me, you can buy your citizenship there if you know the right people. Meanwhile, prices for tourists are extremely high, often comparable to or even higher than European destinations like Greece, despite the very low cost of living. The infrastructure is almost non-existent, frequent power outages. There was outage when I was there for a day, and then another outage when I left. Weak or barely functioning AC units, roads inside villages, poor public service units. None of this matches the perfect tropical escape like you expect it to be. So that's what they sent to me. And on top of that, another person said there is poverty there's poverty in its objective between Stone Town and the resorts is in the evidence, and just walking to the shores is obvious that this is a third world country. Now it says even when you're walking along the beach, they said that people would pretty much come up to him asking for money all the time. You got money. One person even told me, or the same person told me, they said getting in like almost like a rideshare car, like a taxi cab. They were driving, they stopped, somebody came and opened up the door, put their foot literally in the door. So now they can't drive off because this person's halfway in, halfway out. If you drive off, you risk going to jail. You don't want to go to jail there. So this person's saying, I'm not getting out till you pay me some money. So what are you going to do? They paid him some money, $20, he got out. Said multiple times he had to pay people. He kept getting scammed left and right. Now, I'm not saying this is all the people that live there. I'm not saying that. But what I am just giving you a picture of how it is. It is a third world country. So because of you have these people who are in dire need of money, it's easy for somebody to go and give money for either some information or, hey, I need this done. Why was she left there for an hour swinging? Why was she no, first she went to her urgent care. Then they transported to the next hospital where she passed away. Joe was still in jail, being questioned. As far as I know, they took his passport and everything, okay? Now, the one thing these people do not want, Zanzibar, I told you, 35% of their money comes from tourists. They don't want this to ruin it. They don't want this to ruin it, okay? What the person told me was look closely at the staff, okay? Joe was also there with a friend, and there was also other people that Joe knew there too, all right? Joe knew people there, but they told me to look closely at the staff. I said, what do you mean look closely? They said they could not elaborate more on that, all right? I heard an interview while listening to some of these things, an interview from a woman from Africa, which she kind of said the same thing, excuse me, that her information said to look at the people from the staff. Because like I said, if they left her for an hour, why would they do that? Okay. Why would the staff do that? Why? Now, the person told me in Zanzibar, they said that Zanzibar does not want to go down that, hey, you can come here, you're not safe because tourists are not going to want to come. This is something they don't want to do. Not only that, they don't want other people coming here to ruin any sort of money, any sort of anything. All right. Investors, remember there's investors coming there. So we have two different type of things that can be going on. All right, people, two different things. And I'm sorry this is long, but I had to give you all the information that I've been digging in for 2 days to get all this for you guys. All right. But Joe lost all that money in his funding account last year. It went down 80%, right? I don't know the math off the top of my head, but what's 80% of $400 million? Half of that, half it's 200,000, right? So maybe he's down to a little under 100,000, I'm guessing, 80%. So a little, maybe $90,000, a little under 100 million. So maybe 90 million is left out of 400 million. I don't know. It doesn't say if those funders took the money out. It's not saying that or anything. Okay. Joe was also there with a friend. Who is this friend? Who are the other people that he knew? All right. Now, is it possible for Joe to pay the staff off that Joe didn't do it himself? I can see him paying the staff. I can see that happening. I can see that because it's easy to pay people off there. They need the money. I can see that. Is it possible though, too, that since you have all these crypto giants going in and out of Zanzibar, all these investors going in and out of Zanzibar, is it possible that Joe and Ashlee was targeted? Is it possible that Joe and Ashlee was targeted from an outside firm? Because what happened to all the money that was in that account? It does not say if he gave the investors back their money. It doesn't say any of that. It doesn't say if he lost their money. Was he spending it at the strip club, the gentleman's club? We don't know. Was he using that money to make these trips to Zanzibar? Was this trip funded by his funders into the company? People with money have leverage. They have power. Okay, they have power. There's a person who allegedly invested into Joe's company. Okay, What if I told you this person has connections with medical emergency transportation in Tanzania? Let that sink in for a minute. Let it sink in. Now, I'm not saying this person is responsible. I'm not saying Joe's responsible. I'm not saying Ashlee did it herself. But once again, what would the arguments be over to make Ashlee do it herself? Because at first we were thinking they argued one time and she just went and did it. But now I'm knowing that they argue a lot of times. So I don't think one argument would have did it, because they argued all the time, allegedly. I can see that. They're from two different types of places, so I can see them arguing a lot, probably over dumb stuff. So I don't see her doing that. Calling her mom and saying we just got into an argument and then asking to borrow a phone charger. I don't see her doing that. Why would we need to charge your phone if you're going to plan on doing this anyway? That part does not make sense. If you're going to plan on doing this, why do you need to charge your phone? This is like in the Ellen Greenberg situation. The girl in 2011 who they found with over 20 something knife wounds on her, 10 in the back and 10 in the front. They said she did it herself in the middle of making a sandwich. Why are you going to make yourself a sandwich and then do this stuff to yourself 20 times, 10 in the back? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. So yeah, why would you need to charge your phone if you're going to go do this? And then why would you tell the guy to come back in 15 minutes? If you're going to do it, it doesn't make sense. Why would Joe do this to her himself, even though they argue all the time and Joe just proposed? Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I do cases all the time where a male flips out or something like that. It happens. Man, if a woman wants to leave you, just let her leave, especially if you got money. You can go no matter what. There's all these other women out here. You don't have to get so emotional and need to do this to them. So I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It could have. Could he have paid somebody? Yes. But when I found out all the money that was involved, when I found out what Zanzibar supposedly doing the project, they're doing the project, they are still doing it. They're still doing this project. Once I found out who one of the partners or one of the investors is, and the investors also has invested in the company for emergency transportation in Zanzibar because they had no emergency transportation. He put up money for that. Once I found out the Zanzibar government is involved in this crypto business, once I found out his own Asymmetric Financial lost 80% of funds, and that 80% is from other people's pockets, not his, other people's pockets. Well, now that I gave you all this thorough information, okay, like I said, I worked hard on this information. Now that I gave you all this thorough information, you guys can let me know what you think now. Do you think with all this information, Joe physically did it himself? Do you think he could have paid somebody? Do you think Ashlee did it herself? Okay. I am coming to the conclusion that I don't think she did it herself. Do I think Joe did it? Do I think he's involved? That part, I don't know. I don't know. Do I think somebody else could have been involved and targeted them? I don't know, but it's a possibility. Now that I'm doing this, I'm going down this rabbit hole and I'm finding all this stuff like Nancy Guthrie case. Like, hold on, wait. What am I finding here? I'm going to continue to look at this. I'm going to continue to see what else I can find because I'm pretty sure there's more. And if I can find more, I don't know, this might be solved. It might be. But I'm going to see what I can do. But you guys, please like, subscribe. You're helping me grow. I'm almost at 25,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. You've helped me grow so much in the past year with this channel. I'm one of the fastest growing channels in the true crime sector. Okay, so please like, subscribe. I have the Fugitive TV merch below. I have the Ray Marcel collection as well. Please sign up for the membership. It's very affordable. I do members only videos. A lot of it's for court cases. A lot of it's when I'm remote or when I need to give you guys maybe a deeper look into who I am. This is going to be for members, but thank you so much. Hype the video, especially this one. Everybody needs to see this, okay? So if you have the hype button, some people don't, but if you do, please hype. Thank you so much. Once again, watch out for one another. Take care of one another, all right? Look out at your surroundings. Watch your surroundings. Until next time, I'm out.